Kevin Stefanski didn't yell. He didn't rant. He didn't even raise his voice. But when asked about Shedeur Sanders' confidence, his bold claim that he could start for most NFL teams, Stefanski responded with something even worse: cold, calculated dismissal. And that, right there, may have been the beginning of the end. The question wasn't outrageous. Sanders didn't demand the starting job or throw anyone under the bus. He gave a confident, honest answer. Exactly what you'd want from a young quarterback trying to carve out his place in the league.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
But instead of showing support, Stefanski gave a flat response that dripped with indifference. No recognition of Shedeur's poise. No nod to his leadership or preparation. Just a shrug. It wasn't just disrespectful, it was tone-deaf. Because this isn't just about words. It's about the message sent to the locker room, the media, and most importantly, ownership. Stefanski didn't just downplay Sanders' self-belief. He signaled to everyone that he's not interested in developing that belief. That he's sticking with the same tired, conservative approach. The same veteran dependence that has kept the Browns stuck in neutral for years. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders has been everything you'd want from a young QB caught in the middle of chaos. Professional, patient, calm. Even while being benched behind Joe Flacco, he hasn't wavered. He hasn't lashed out. He simply stayed ready, while the coaching staff seems allergic to giving him a chance. And now, that disconnect is becoming a full-blown crisis. Because in a league built on momentum, creativity, and fearless leadership, Stefanski looks like a man trying to protect his seat by avoiding risk. But guess what? Playing it safe is the risk. Because that public dismissal of Shedeur didn't just make waves, it lit a fuse. And Jimmy Haslam? He's watching. When your young quarterback says he's ready, and your head coach basically says, "Cool, don't care," you've got a leadership problem. And if Stefanski doesn't shift fast, the Browns may decide he's not the guy to lead them into this next era. The NFL is a young man's game now. Boldness wins. And when your most confident young player gets brushed aside like noise, the real noise is only just beginning. What started as a routine press conference has turned into a full-blown organizational crisis. And the fuse was lit by Kevin Stefanski himself, when he delivered a cold and dismissive response to a perfectly reasonable statement from rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Sanders, who has carried himself with professionalism and poise since entering the league, made headlines when he said what most competitive quarterbacks should say. He believes he's ready to start for most NFL teams. That kind of confidence is standard for elite-level athletes. It's not controversial. It's not cocky. It's expected. Unless, apparently, you're in Cleveland, where speaking like a leader gets you benched and brushed off. Instead of embracing Sanders' mindset and using it as a launching point to build momentum around his development, Stefanski downplayed it, dismissed it. And in doing so, he may have triggered a turning point that the Browns front office and their owner can no longer ignore. According to internal reports, Jimmy Haslam was not impressed. Haslam's frustration has less to do with a single quote and more to do with what that quote revealed. The philosophical wall that's been standing between the Browns' current coaching staff and the future of the franchise. A wall built brick by conservative decisions, uninspired game planning, and a refusal to trust in young talent, particularly quarterbacks. This isn't just a misstep, it's a pattern. And Haslam has had enough. Let's not forget who we're talking about. Jimmy Haslam isn't afraid to make changes. He cycled through head coaches faster than most franchises change uniforms. His tolerance for stagnation is low. His threshold for public embarrassment is even lower. And when your coach is actively undermining a young, promising quarterback who could be the long-term answer, it's not just a football issue. It's a franchise failure. Stefanski's commitment to Joe Flacco, a veteran whose best years are clearly behind him, isn't just about comfort. It's about fear. Fear of change. Fear of risk. Fear of being wrong. But in the NFL, playing scared gets you nowhere. And here's the real problem. Stefanski's conservatism isn't isolated to the quarterback room. It's infected the entire offensive philosophy. From his refusal to integrate rookie Dillon Gabriel into any meaningful reps, to the stale play calling that seems allergic to innovation, it's clear that this coaching staff is stuck. And worse, they're dragging the team down with them. That's why Haslam is reportedly considering a coaching change. This isn't just about hurt feelings or press conference optics. This is about the Browns wasting a crucial window, again. They have a quarterback who is everything teams claim to want. Sanders has leadership qualities. He has confidence, but it's measured and professional. He's patient. He doesn't stir up drama. He wants to play, and he wants to win. And instead of developing that, the Browns are letting him rot on the bench. And everyone in the league sees it. Front offices around the NFL have already taken notice. Teams like the Raiders, Giants, and Panthers are rumored to be watching the Sanders situation closely. If Cleveland continues to botch this, they know Sanders could be a steal. A franchise guy, overlooked and undervalued, just waiting for a team that actually wants to invest in his growth. The Browns? They're treating him like a problem to be managed instead of a talent to be unlocked. That attitude sends shockwaves through a locker room. It tells other young players that development isn't a priority. That saying the right things doesn't matter. That doing your job quietly and professionally won't get you anywhere unless you're already a safe veteran. That's how you lose a team. And that's how you destroy morale, not just for this season, but for years. This is more than just a coaching decision. This is a cultural fracture. Stefanski is choosing familiarity over flexibility. He's betting on yesterday's quarterback instead of tomorrow's leader. And with every passing week, that bet looks worse. Because let's be honest, this team isn't contending. They're not a Super Bowl caliber squad being held together by a savvy vet while the rookie learns from the sidelines. This is a team in flux, on the edge, trying to find its identity. And yet, the most obvious path to creating that identity, developing Sanders, is being ignored completely. You can't claim to be building for the future while clinging to the past. And if Haslam lets this continue, he risks losing more than a season. He risks losing the very asset that could redefine the Browns' future. Sanders hasn't asked for special treatment. He hasn't made it about himself. He's carried the weight of this dysfunction with maturity that you rarely see from a rookie quarterback. But he's also not going to wait forever. He's not going to spend the next 2 years watching from the sidelines while the team he was supposed to lead wastes time protecting a coach who's afraid to take a leap. Haslam has a choice. Stand by a coach who's clearly out of sync with where the league and his own team needs to go, or rip the bandage off now and build around the young quarterback who still believes in this franchise more than the franchise believes in him. Because if Stefanski stays and this continues, Sanders is gone. Full stop. The next time you see him might be in a different jersey, lighting up the Browns on national TV, while commentators talk about what could have been in Cleveland. And fans? They've lived that nightmare too many times to stomach it again. This isn't about hype. This is about reality. Sanders has the potential to be a long-term solution. But potential means nothing if it's buried behind outdated coaching philosophies and fearful decision-making. The Browns cannot afford to let another talent walk out the door because leadership refused to evolve. The clock isn't just ticking on Stefanski. It's ticking on the Browns' credibility. If they want to send a message to the fans, the locker room, the league, they need to act. Not next season. Now. There's still time to salvage this. There's still time to build something around Shedeur Sanders. But that time is measured in days, not months. And if the Browns don't act, they'll be remembered not just for mismanaging a player, but for driving another nail into the coffin of a franchise that keeps hitting rewind on its own progress. So, where do you stand? Should Jimmy Haslam pull the trigger and move on from Kevin Stefanski before this turns into another wasted season? Is Shedeur Sanders being held back by a system that refuses to change? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button if you're tired of watching NFL teams squander talent in real time. And turn on notifications. Because if Cleveland doesn't make a move soon, this drama isn't over. It's just getting started. The Browns have a quarterback problem, but it's not Shedeur Sanders. It's everything around him. And the center of that dysfunction? Kevin Stefanski. Let's not pretend this is some minor coaching disagreement or harmless quote out of context. No. Stefanski's dismissive response to Shedeur Sanders wasn't just a flub. It was a signal. A bright, flashing, red siren telling us that this coaching staff still doesn't get it. And worse, they don't want to get it. This isn't about rookie patience. This isn't about learning behind a vet. This is about a head coach who is actively suppressing momentum. Stefanski didn't just ignore Shedeur's confidence. He stepped on it. And that's the problem. Because let's be honest, Shedeur didn't say anything outrageous. He didn't trash talk. He didn't demand a trade. He said he's ready to start for most NFL teams. That's not ego. That's reality. Go through the current QB landscape and try to tell me, with a straight face, that Shedeur couldn't start over at least 10, maybe 15 quarterbacks right now. That kind of confidence should be celebrated, not punished. But instead of saying, we love his mindset, or that's what we want from our young leaders, Stefanski all but rolled his eyes. He gave that tired, lukewarm, well, he's still learning, corporate safe response. And in doing so, revealed everything. It told us that Stefanski doesn't trust his young guys. It told us that he's more interested in playing it safe than playing to win. And most importantly, it told us that Shedeur Sanders might never get a fair shot under this regime. Now look, Joe Flacco is fine. He's a professional. He's reliable. He'll give you a few steady games, maybe even a late season push if everything breaks right. But let's be real, he's a band-aid, a short-term patch, a placeholder. You don't build the future of your franchise around Joe Flacco in 2025. That's not shade. That's just facts. And yet, Stefanski is clinging to that comfort like it's 2012 again. Why? Because that's what Stefanski does. He plays not to lose. And that's exactly how you do lose in the modern NFL. You think Mike McDaniel benches a confident, dynamic young quarterback for saying he's ready? You think Kyle Shanahan shrinks from a player who believes in himself? You think Dan Campbell rolls his eyes at swagger? Absolutely not. They lean into it. They coach through it. They build around it. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, the coach shuts it down. Publicly. Casually. Like it doesn't matter. And now? It really matters. Because word around the league is that Jimmy Haslam isn't just annoyed. He's ready. Ready to make a change. Ready to finally acknowledge that this thing isn't working. And given his history, that shouldn't surprise anyone. Haslam has fired coaches for far less. He's not afraid to hit the red button. And the Stefanski-Sanders situation might be the final straw. Because from a business perspective, this isn't just about football. It's about brand. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a name. He brings media attention. He brings fan engagement. He brings relevance. And if the Browns let that slip away because their head coach refuses to adapt, that's not just a missed opportunity. That's organizational malpractice. But let's zoom out for a second. Let's talk about the broader problem here. This isn't just about one bad response in one press conference. This is about the Browns as a culture, as an identity. And right now, that identity is stale. This team doesn't take risks. It doesn't innovate. It doesn't build around its young core. Instead, it clings to washed-up stability and calls it leadership. It benches potential and calls it patience. And every time they do, they fall behind. Again, the refusal to develop Shedeur isn't just a Stefanski problem. It's a reflection of a mindset that has haunted this team for years, the fear of change. And now, with a legit young quarterback on the roster, one who wants to lead, who wants the pressure, they're still choosing fear. Still choosing the safe bet that hasn't taken them anywhere. Here's the thing. You can't keep drafting quarterbacks and then refusing to develop them. You can't say you're building a long-term plan and then bury your most valuable asset. You can't claim to have vision when your coach is publicly dismissing your future. It doesn't work. And the locker room sees that. The fans see that. And other teams, oh, they definitely see that. Don't think for a second that the Raiders, the Panthers, the Giants, the Patriots, teams desperate for an identity, aren't watching this mess in Cleveland with interest. They know Shedeur's not the problem. They know what he could be with the right staff. And if the Browns aren't willing to give him that chance, someone else will. So now, we're at the turning point. The Browns have a decision to make. And it's not about Joe Flacco. It's not even just about Kevin Stefanski. It's about what kind of team they want to be. Do they want to be the same old Browns? The team that fumbles its own future at every crucial moment? The team that plays it safe until the wheels fall off, then starts the cycle all over again? Or do they want to be bold? Do they want to develop a quarterback with talent and presence? Do they want to finally get out of their own way? Because Shedeur Sanders won't sit around forever. Right now, he's staying calm. He's staying professional. But if this continues, if the team keeps overlooking him while he does everything right, he'll leave. And when he does, he'll shine somewhere else. And the Browns will once again be stuck holding the receipts for a future they chose to waste. This is what Jimmy Haslam is looking at right now. He sees the split. He hears the whispers. He watches the post-game reactions. And he knows the storm is coming. Because fans aren't going to keep showing up just to watch their team underutilize young talent. Players aren't going to keep buying into a system that suppresses their voice. And ownership? Ownership isn't going to keep writing checks to coaches who refuse to adapt. Stefanski had his shot. He brought some stability to a franchise in chaos. But now, that stability has curdled into stagnation. And in a league this competitive, stagnation is just a slow death. If the Browns want to survive, let alone thrive, they need a reset. They need a coach who doesn't just tolerate confidence, but cultivates it. They need someone who sees what Shedeur Sanders brings and says, let's build. Not bench. Not dismiss. Build. Because when you have a player like Sanders, a guy with talent, presence, poise, and potential, you don't clip his wings. You don't stick him behind a clipboard. You let him lead. So here's the question Cleveland has to answer, and fast. Do you want to keep Kevin Stefanski? Or do you want to keep Shedeur Sanders? Because at this point, it's looking more and more like you can't have both. The Cleveland Browns could be turning the page, starting a new era, building around a young quarterback who wants the pressure. Instead, they're reading the same tired script and wondering why the ending never changes. At the center of this, Kevin Stefanski keeps playing the role of the smart, steady hand. But steady doesn't mean stuck. And right now, he's stuck. In the past. In outdated play calling. In quarterback loyalty that feels less like trust and more like fear. The NFL is not built for coaches like this anymore. You can't afford to play 2004 football in 2025. And you definitely can't afford to suppress a young quarterback's confidence because he had the nerve to say what a real leader says. I'm ready. That one quote from Shedeur Sanders should have been Stefanski's moment to lean in. To say, that's our guy. To validate the future. But instead, he swatted it away, dismissed it like it was noise, shrugged it off in front of cameras, the team, and ownership. And that is why Jimmy Haslam is on edge. Because when your franchise quarterback is trying to lead and your head coach is publicly minimizing him, you don't just have a QB controversy. You have a full-blown leadership breakdown. Let's break it down. Stefanski didn't just ignore Sanders. He undercut him. And every single time he trots Joe Flacco out there while Shedeur stands on the sideline, the message becomes louder and clearer, not just to Sanders, but to the entire team. We don't believe in you yet. And that's a problem. Because belief isn't just a buzzword. It's the foundation of every winning team in the NFL. You look at any successful franchise and you'll see it, teams that believe in their young guys. Teams that trust their quarterbacks to grow through mistakes. That give them the space to lead, even before they've proven themselves. The Browns? They're still acting like you have to earn belief before you get it. That's not how it works. You give the belief first, and then you watch it pay off. Look at what's happening around the league. The Texans didn't wait around with C.J. Stroud. The Colts didn't baby Anthony Richardson. Even the Bears, dysfunctional as ever, gave Justin Fields a real shot to lead. And Cleveland? They've got Shedeur Sanders, calm, confident, media-trained, mature beyond his years. And they're too scared to see what happens if they let him play. And it's not like the Browns are a well-oiled machine right now. This isn't a team with a lock on the division. This isn't a team riding an unstoppable win streak. They're flawed. They're inconsistent. They're searching. And yet they're pretending like a spark from Sanders would be some massive disruption. Here's the truth. Shedeur is exactly what this team needs. He's confident, but not reckless. He's vocal, but not dramatic. He wants to be the guy. He's not just ready. He's waiting. Waiting while the coaching staff plays keep away with the one thing that could actually salvage their season. Hope. And Jimmy Haslam sees it. Haslam isn't going to sit quietly while his future franchise quarterback is being mishandled on and off the field. He's seen this movie too many times. Quarterbacks drafted, hyped, then wasted. Seasons with promise turned into missed chances. Coaching regimes that start strong, then collapse under their own stubbornness. And right now, Stefanski is checking all the boxes on that checklist. Because let's be honest, if Shedeur Sanders ends up getting traded, it won't be because he didn't deliver. It'll be because Cleveland never let him try. And when he's lighting it up for another franchise, winning games and leading locker rooms, the Browns will have to answer one brutal question. Why didn't you believe in him when you had the chance? Stefanski won't have a good answer for that. And by then, he probably won't have a job either. Because this is no longer a debate about quarterback depth charts. This is about identity, about vision, about whether the Browns are going to finally embrace a future that doesn't look like every other failure they've already lived through. And right now, Shedeur Sanders is the future. Not a maybe, not a someday. Now, the Browns can either make the leap or get left behind. They can either back their young quarterback or prepare for another reset when Sanders walks. Because one thing is certain, Shedeur's not going to wait around forever. He's too smart for that, too talented. And other teams will absolutely give him the platform Stefanski refuses to provide. The locker room knows it. The fans know it. The ownership definitely knows it. And now, it's time for the Browns to stop pretending like patience is a strategy. It's not. It's an excuse. An excuse to avoid risk. An excuse to justify mediocrity. An excuse to sit on a talent that every team in the league would kill to have, and do nothing with it. That excuse is about to run out. Jimmy Haslam has a decision to make. Either he forces this franchise to move forward, starting with Stefanski, or he watches another promising chapter go up in smoke. Because there's no version of this story where the Browns waste Shedeur Sanders and come out looking competent. There's no spin that makes this okay. There's no PR fix for losing a quarterback because your coach was too scared to let him compete. And let's be real, Haslam knows that, which is why his trigger finger is itching. This might be the last coaching cycle Kevin Stefanski sees in Cleveland. The pressure is that high. The stakes are that clear. If something doesn't change fast, then change is coming for him, whether he wants it or not. Because the longer this saga drags on, the more Cleveland becomes a punchline again. The team that had the guy, but didn't trust him. The team that could have turned a corner, but stayed in neutral. The team that talks about the future, but can't stop clinging to the past. That's not how you build a winning franchise. That's how you stay stuck. And Cleveland? They've been stuck long enough. If they want to rewrite the narrative, it starts by backing the player who's done everything right, even when the team around him has done everything wrong. That player is Shedeur Sanders. And if the Browns don't realize that now, someone else will. So let us know where you stand. Should Haslam pull the plug on Stefanski before this turns into another quarterback tragedy? Is Shedeur Sanders getting the fair shot he deserves? Or is this just business as usual in Cleveland? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Because the Browns may still be asleep at the wheel, but we're wide awake for every twist, turn, and meltdown. Stay tuned.